Hi everyone, this is Heidi. We're doing an artist talk today with artist Jenny Lee Craig. I'm just gonna send her an invite right now. Invite to join. Oh my goodness, Jenny Lee Craig has joined. That's good. And there she is. She's in it. Hey Naners, thanks for joining. Jenny, I can't hear you at all.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the headphones were connected. So
Um,
I just fixed it.
awesome, awesome. Well, um, we have like three people joining us today, so that's
No
awesome. That's
problem.
enough to get
They
started.
come in and out. Isn't that what happens with
Yeah,
lives?
yeah,
That's what I do.
definitely.
Jump in and
Yeah.
out.
Have you ever done an? Maybe I should just start by just saying, like, Jenny, do you want to introduce yourself, or do you want me to introduce
You
you?
introduce me.
Okay. Well, Jenny is our artist alumni resident for this year, so we call it the archival activation. And Jenny has done the Hammock Residency many times when it was out of my house, like one with the tin can, and then two, I think two on your own. One was the pool play, you actually did it, and then one was like a research residency for synchronized swimming pool plays. And then one was, I think, Extra Man was a Hammock Residency thing too. You've done a
That
bunch of
player
your,
Tender Jewel was a Hammock residency for sure.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's kind of interesting because I feel like I don't know. I think the Hammock residency and you, of course, was such a big part of like my developing my creative practice in Vancouver, connecting me with the creative community that like all the things I was doing, from 2010 to 2000 and I don't know, 2020, were connected
Mhm.
to you or are encouraged by you, and then you and I have collaborated on other things. So I don't know, it's sort of I feel like I feel like even if I wasn't an official resident, I was talking about ideas with you or
Mhm.
getting inspired by stuff you were doing. So it's like, yeah, been a big part of my practice, I think. Hmm.
My brother-in-law just joined. Hi, Jim. That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely feel like our artist paths were very intertwined, and like especially when you were running Tin Can Studios, which for people that don't know, Tin Can Studios, it was like this mobile arts studio that was in this like mirrored,
Streamline
yeah,
trailer, a
but it was
1969
like,
Streamline trailer.
yeah, but it was more than streamlined. It was like mirrored. The whole thing was metal. It had such a cool aesthetic to it. Like you could always see the tin can whenever it showed up because it was just like blinging in the sunlight. It's just beautiful. But there was like a summer where the tin can was in the backyard, and then we did all these workshops out of it. You were the We did backyard music festival, and tin can was the bar. I think you guys made drinks at that in the tin can, and
I don't remember what we did. I remember being in there, but yeah, I
yeah,
don't
you
remember
made
what we
drinks. You made like fancy fun drinks for everybody, and people loved
did.
it.
Excuse me.
I guess one of the things I want to ask is like, how do you feel like your art practice has evolved since those early days? As like when you came from Montreal to Vancouver 10 years ago, you were really heavily involved. Well, maybe we'll start with Montreal. How was Montreal different than Vancouver? And then early days to Vancouver to kind of like now where you are as an artist.
Well, I feel like, you know, my practice was I mean, in Montreal too, was a lot more community focused and really heavy on community engagement. So developing, projects that the community could be involved in. Um, and that obviously was a big part of a lot of the things I did once I came here in 2010, um, through Tin Can, through a lot of the theater work too, which was often, community based or encouraged community participation on some level. Um, And I think then in the last few years, having like done the courses in expressive arts therapy, like my practice has like turned a little bit more internal, um, and a little less external. And I think
Mm.
part of like getting older too, or just having like less social energy or less capacity to um, to do uh, I don't know, things that take a lot of social energy. That's just, I don't know if that's everyone's experience, but that's been my experience. So I guess it's sort of like, it feels like my practice has shifted from being more community engaged to being a little bit more internal. And then having studied expressive arts therapy, it's like become so much about like personal healing. So like creativity being connected to my own personal healing and my own personal growth. Um, so I think those are some of the ways that it's evolved over the
Mm.
years. Hmm. Yeah,
And how old are you now, Jenny?
45.
Yeah.
Hmm.
When did that shift kind of happen from external to internal? Like, was there like, do you feel like it was really connected to aging?
Like yeah, I do sort of. I don't know why though. But it could also be that it was connected to pandemic too. I mean, the pandemic sort of like altered everyone's psyche in a big way,
Hmm.
in terms of like um e- even forcing us like extroverts to be kind of introverted. So I think that there's something to be said there where like in my creative practice I've become, yeah, I think it's become less community engaged or less focused on having more participation. Um, but that was also like, we had sort of 3 years where being with other people was like much harder.
Yeah.
And that's about when we stopped doing tin can too. But that was a natural evolution. It wasn't because of the pandemic. It was sort of like the tin can kind of wound down naturally, and then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So, hmm,
And how do you feel it's connected to age? Like it's definitely connected to the pandemic, but do you feel like there's some sort of shift with you, like just in terms of aging? I mean, I feel like that's been true for me.
in connected to creativity, I mean, kind of, because I feel like maybe there was more um, desire for external validation
Yeah.
when I was younger, or when I first started like doing art projects or theater projects, but I feel like that becomes less and less important to me. But I do think that studying expressive arts therapy like did that, altered that too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say that's a universal experience. That's just been my
No.
experience. Hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm just interested in your experience, really.
Hmm.
Like, not really. I'm not trying to pull any universals out of here.
Yeah.
Just kind of curious about you. How do you feel like the expressive art therapy kind of like you were always involved with like healing and, wanting to be like social justice and wanting kind of healing on a society level. And then
That's
what did they,
I think what connected me to doing community engaged work, which was sort of like feeling like that there is an empowerment in like being creative together. Yeah. Yeah.
and so it just kind of gave you a space where it was like about your creativity, like you solo, like this, like,
Hmm. Hmm.
expressive arts therapy kind of made you focus on yourself in a way because you're such like an outward person. Like you put everyone before yourself, you put other people before, your art is all about community engagement and social practice. And it felt like the expressive arts therapy was like, and now let's talk about you.
Hmm. Yeah. It demanded that actually.
Hmm.
I mean, it was structured in such a way that like I couldn't not do more inner exploration, which I think was kind of important. Or, yeah, you,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm. How do you see that expressive arts therapy like informing your practice now? Like, do you feel like you made pieces when you were in that program that you're gonna develop further?
Um, yeah, possibly, or maybe ideas. Like there's just more like nuggets of information that I think I've held on to that like could be expanded into a larger idea. But I think that it like also just like um, challenged me to not think before creating, to really get out of
Mm.
my own way, kind of. Yeah.
Talk more
To
about
sort of,
that. That seems amazing.
yeah, to sort of like, and to like, I guess like, because the outcome really isn't about aesthetics. The
Hmm.
outcome's really about about what you might get from it or what you might be able to see about yourself from it. So I think in that sense, that was really useful. Learning or putting that into practice, because
Mm.
as someone who has like ADHD and like other things that like make it that I procrastinate or leave things till the very, 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 very last minute, um, I had to get out of my own way. Mm-hmm.
What are some of the reasons that why you leave it to the last
There
minute?
isn't really a reason. I wouldn't say that there's a reason. It really does feel like I think that it's like procrastination for me isn't something that I can like explain, you know? It's
Mm.
not even fear, it's not even it's like you cannot do the things you want to do the most.
Hmm. Talk more about that. You just got a heart from someone, from a viewer. People were like, I relate. I'd love to hear you talk more about that too. Just like, yeah, and not being able to explain procrastination. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, it's sort of like you can, I mean, that's the maddening part of it is that you can be sitting there like wanting to do that thing that you need to do so badly because of a deadline or because it's something you're excited about. And like there's an actual like physical inertia to be able to do it. Like you actually cannot make yourself
Like that
that focus.
ADHD freeze,
Yeah.
like the ADHD paralysis. Is that sort of what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, did
Which
you
is
find
something
that?
that
Keep
that's
going.
something I didn't even really like know that I had until I did the expressive arts therapy program because I was like would be like I just was like physically unable to make myself do the assignments. And I would be
Mm.
watching my classmates like start them in a month before, start them weeks before, and then like, be chatting in our little group chat about like what they're learning. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even start it. I can't even start it. And it would be like, you know, it would be
Mm.
due. And that's when I would be able to start it after, after it was
Yeah.
supposed to be submitted.
Almost when there's nothing to lose,
Yeah.
when something is so late, it's like there's nothing to lose and there's no mental pressure
Yeah.
in some ways. Or it's like there's all the mental pressure, but there's also like a sense of like, well, it's late anyway, so permission for it to be whatever it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
how I've experienced that. Do you relate to that?
Yeah, I can relate to that. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. The pressure, because whether it's good or not, like that doesn't matter anymore. It's just like you just got to get it done.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sort of frees up your brain to be able to just like go ahead and do it, you know? Did
Yeah.
you find that any of that changed when you did medication?
Mm, yeah, it really helps. Yeah, it really helps. It just
Even
like,
the paralysis, it helps that too?
yeah, yeah, it does. Does it for you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm on a pretty high dose, so I don't really have a lot of ADHD paralysis anymore because I'm medicated. It medicated it out of me, I guess.
Hmm.
I still like get absent-minded, or I'll like forget things, or I'll like leave the house and then have to run back for a hoodie. Like that's still my signature move, but I don't have ADHD. I don't have paralysis anymore.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it feels a lot better for me now. It's not perfect, but it's definitely better.
More manageable.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
What is the function of creativity in your life?
Mm, I think it's what keeps things like Um, Playful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sort of like what keeps things like what makes room for surprise, what makes room for something unexpected, what makes
Hmm.
room for like something spontaneous, you know? It's like the thing that activates the imagination and like allows for um yeah, room for something unusual.
It seems really crucial to your life, actually.
Mhm. Mhm. I think so. In terms of my own like well-being.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. What's the biggest block you have towards creativity and just like centering it more in your life?
Mhm. Um, what's that?
I do not know what's going on there. Okay. Sorry. I had
Okay.
some I was listening to when the cat went on the computer, it like turned on my Spotify
Mm.
and I was listening to Laura Leaf's album and yeah, that's what you were listening to me.
Nice.
Just a little commercial break for everyone.
Mhm. Um, yeah, I think, sorry, I forget what your question was,
Or
Hux.
just like creativity in your life and like what's the role of art in your life, creativity in your life.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's sort of just something that I think like, you know, uh, it's not art for art's sake, it's creative living, I guess. Hmm.
What for you separates the difference between like a creative lifestyle and being an artist?
I don't know, maybe if I don't know. I mean, is there a difference? I don't think there is a difference.
Just a question
You
to
think there's a
consider.
difference?
I think there's a difference in terms of output,
Right.
because like I don't think you'd be making plays and pools and like in ice sculptures and you wouldn't have a desire like the creativity would be enough reward just to be creative, but you have a desire and a need to like make things, make plays, make theater plays, make little sculptures, make little drawings. It's not just enough to be creative for you.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
guess so, but I don't feel very married to people seeing them, you know? It was fun doing the Hammock Residency because it like forced me to kind of take a step back and look at like different things that I've made and think about them and wonder if they're worth sharing or or just share them anyways, whether,
Hmm.
without any kind of like judgment on them.
Hmm.
I don't know if I feel strongly that I it's required.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So what was the impetus to share all the stuff that you have shared in the past, like especially your theater stuff, because they were hugely impactful for like entire communities got involved. Like what do you think like was that sort of an external drive or like
Like
what do you think that
to share them on Hammock or when I did them.
oh just in general, like every time you do a play or something, what's the reason why you want to share that?
Yeah, I think because it's like I mean, what I really have always loved about those projects is the community that gets created within making the project, and
Mhm.
the how it's almost like I see it as like a microorganism in and of itself, and that connection that can happen when people are creating something together. And I think, that happens in theater all the time. But that's why it interested me to like for people to get involved that weren't necessarily from like a theater world or like from a film world where people
Mhm.
experience that in like their professional lives, you know,
Mhm.
because I think that can be a beautiful part of it, of just connecting with other people and like, you know, coming together and then, being brave to show something together. Yeah. Yeah. That's that's I think
Yeah.
what always excited me about doing those projects, or if I were to do in the
Hmm.
future, which maybe.
Hmm. But it maybe sounds like when it comes to do like your personal art projects or the stuff that you're doing, like there's less of a need to share that in some ways. Like it's okay that it's private. It's okay that it's like smaller in some ways, like a quieter thing. Whereas like your
Mhm.
public works were always like really loud,
Mhm.
like really publicly engaged. I'm
Mhm.
really interested in that shift because like post art expressive art therapy, it seems like your work is much more quiet. It's much more about like your inner world, and
Mhm.
there's not a need to share it or like I don't think if you didn't have the hammock residency, I don't think you would have sort of found a way to share it. Like
Mhm.
it wouldn't have you wouldn't have needed it almost.
Yeah. At this point in time, I don't feel like that, but that could change too, you know?
Yeah, I think it will,
That's
honestly.
the like thing about life.
Yeah, life is
It's
going to
always
change.
changing. And the
I'm
way you
really
feel
curious
or the
as to
capacity
like,
you have, it changes or, you
mm,
know, yeah. So, yeah, I guess for me, that's like, I think, yeah, like I'm just like, don't feel that uh, maybe after doing so much community engagement, especially through, Tin Can and the theater projects, it was just like, felt like a lot of output, constantly, constantly, you know, facilitating or somehow doing that. So it sort of just feels kind of natural to maybe want a little bit.
mm,
Hmm.
that seems really apt, actually.
Hmm. Yeah, just sort of a bit of a. I mean, there was I think like for Tin Can, I think both Caroline, my collaborator, and I like we definitely had a bit of burnout too. It was like
Hmm.
the when we actually like when we still look back at all the different projects that we did over those 10 years, it's like feels like quite epic. Like I don't know how we pulled that much stuff off because
Hmm.
like sometimes they were long term, sometimes they were one day, but like this sort of like intention and the setup that goes into it is not necessarily different, even if the length is different, you know? So it can be like a lot of output. We'd have, a 1 day event here and then a 3 week event and then a 2 day event, but like all of those take the same kind of amount of output.
You still have to do all that work.
Hmm.
You still have to
Yeah,
set everything up and attach the trailer to the truck and like
exactly. Like the logistics of it were like really like we kind of burnt out on the logistics of it. Yeah.
if you were to do that project again, what do you think you would keep and what do you think you would change?
Hmm. It's so hard to say because we were so like learning in the moment, like what worked or what we liked or what we didn't like. Um, so I don't know if I would change anything per se, but I think there was some instances where we would like really stress about the details and like really like overly plan with the details and just like build, work, 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 and then all of those little details that we like planned for kind of didn't matter sometimes. So there would maybe be some simplification in,
Mm,
yeah, that kind of thing. But I don't know, the details are sometimes fun too.
yeah, the
I
details
don't know
are
that's
like
sometimes where the fun.
they're so rewarding when you pull off a nice detail.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I
Hmm.
kind of live for them.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's like personal reward,
yeah,
you know? You're
exactly.
doing the details for yourself, even though you don't really need to do it for the project. It's just like your artistry almost.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
How long? Yeah, so like just in terms of years, you like left Tin Can and then the pandemic pretty much started within a year or two after that.
Yeah, we kind of I would say that we like wound the project down kind of naturally, like just like, sorry, my dog's barking. We started doing less and less, and and then we were preparing. You know, we thought, okay, let's find a new home for the trailer and like sell some of the big assets, the truck, for example, that pulled the trailer around. And then the pandemic, like, kind of had just started within those few months, but it wasn't kind of it was a slow wind down. I think it was like there was definitely like just taking on less and less, and then being like, what are we doing here? Because it is a big thing when you build something and then when you let it go too. That's a big moment to sort of,
It's
yeah,
a big,
yeah, we had
big moment when you're like, you're used to carrying so much, and then all of a sudden you realize that you don't have to carry anything. You don't have to carry it anymore.
exactly,
What,
yeah.
what was that moment for you, Jenny? Like, what did it feel like for you?
I mean, it was so slow that, you know, I don't know if it was like it wasn't like an overnight thing, so it was just like a general thing where like something starts to like decrease in how much time it's taking or how much focus
Mm-hmm.
it's taking, and then other things always fill it out and take its place, you know, like other things just start to like,
Yeah, like expressive arts therapy and
mm-hmm, yeah, or making the choice to do that program, or, you know, um, other work. I mean, I do a lot of festival management work, so a lot of that work sort of would get busier. Or I think Caroline and I both started, you know, looking a little bit at some of our own projects, or just like I did, you know, I did a couple of other residencies in that sort of like slow wind down time where I explored different ideas, or, you know, work
mm-hmm.
stuff that wasn't collaborating in that way. Hmm.
Totally.
Yeah.
So for the new people that have joined the feed, if you have any questions for Jenny about the art practice or you want to say anything, you can put it in the feed and then I will read it out to Jenny for her to ask. So I just thought I'd say that.
I've
Um,
never done a live before. So do you like, you only see that if there's
yeah,
comments?
I see the comments and I see people come in and I see them wave and heart and things. And then when there's something that I think that you would like when you start talking about procrastination and like there was like there was a heart that happened, I was like, oh, Jenny needs to know that someone's resonating with what she's saying, and then I'll just like share it with you.
Hmm. Cool.
So yeah, it feels like your art practice now is your own. Like it doesn't belong to the community. It doesn't belong to like these forces or obligations outside of you. It just belongs to you. It can be your practice.
Yeah. And I think that was like something I had to work on really slowly, because my nature is to like share, you know, or like to not want to take up a lot of space. Or it's just like, you know, I think that's been like something I've had to learn, that like it's okay to like claim it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Hmm.
What does it mean for you to claim your space?
Mm-hmm. I mean, just to, you know, yeah, what does that mean? I mean, I think it's like understanding my boundaries, understanding what I want to do with my time, understanding, you know, my
Mm-hmm.
capacity to give to things. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, connects with that. Anyway,
Is there something,
that's a tough question.
yeah, what do you think the biggest change is for you? Like now that you have a more rooted practice around that.
Mm, it's just like, I think less stress. That's a big
I
shift,
love that.
if that makes sense. It's sort of,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that like, hmm.
Talk about that one, Jenny.
Well, I think just like I have always had the tendency to like overvalue others' needs and undervalue my own, but that would create a lot of stress because I'm trying to like meet other people's expectations, and I don't always know what those are, or I project those, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that even exist, and I just create them. And then of course when your own needs aren't, when you're not meeting your own needs, there's going to be just an underlying like a layer of stress. I think there's just going
Mm-hmm.
to,
Yeah.
that feels like not a little bit of a lack of connection to your own.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You got a heart in there. And
Cool.
do you also feel like when you're trying to do things for other people, do you feel like there's a resentment that forms as well, and that kind of informs the stress?
Yeah, but I don't think it's always external. Like I don't always resent the person asking me of the thing. It's like this double-edged sword because I resent myself for saying yes too.
Mm-hmm.
And that contributes to like a lack of worthiness or like an easy way to like turn yourself into like to to be mean to yourself or like to you know
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
Yeah. It feels like creativity is really linked to like kindness for you too, like being kind to yourself, giving yourself that play, giving yourself that,
yeah,
you know?
I would think that there's a link there for me. It yeah, like creativity or like art making isn't necessarily a dark place for me or a place where I work out like any it does feel it feels like a like more of like a place for imagination to like do its thing versus like working out some sort of more heavier stuff for me at this point. Who knows?
Hmm.
That changes too. So
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, totally.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But for art is more about play and creativity and keeping it light, almost.
Mm-hmm.
Giving yourself
Mm-hmm.
a lightness and a relief from that
I
stress.
think so. Yeah. Yeah. Right now. Anyway.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you're noticing while doing the hammock residency, like things that you are noticing about your work or your past work or
Um, I think one of the things that I like really like wanted to see through looking at like different examples of past work was if there was like any like threads I could tie between things. And I don't think I've been able to see if I if there are any, which is
really?
okay. Yeah.
Each project is like its own individual
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's its own thing in a way. In a way. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know
There's
if there.
also themes. I would say there's definitely themes in your works,
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. That's true.
but I don't feel like you didn't work out this issue, so you worked it out into the next piece. I don't get that necessarily. It's not necessarily narrative, but you definitely have themes.
Yeah. Well, even medium wise. But that's always what drew me to doing the theater project is because I got to do a bit of everything. Writing has
Mm.
always been fun for me, but then like, you know, all of the parts of it are fun in terms of like sculptural or costume making or the movement and the performative aspect of it too. Like there's like it really like gets to be a place where like I feel like I can be really interdisciplinary.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But I mean that's been good I think through the hammock residency because it's like I feel like there is a pressure sometimes on artists to like develop a style and to like just hone in and like go for one thing that they want to do, and that's like not possible for me. So I think like yeah, Ian just said that I just started making rugs and there's loads of threads
Yeah.
in the rug. It's true.
There you
Yeah.
go. There's a thread in your work with Jenny.
um yeah. Yeah, that it like I think it's just like helps me accept myself as like as someone who truly like thrives in an interdisciplinary way.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You got two hearts, Jenny. Yeah, talk about your interdiscipline, like the need for you to be an interdisciplinary artist and sort of like your acceptance of the amateur in some ways. You've talked about that in a few of your posts, like the focus on like playfulness and like
Mhm.
just embracing not knowing what you're doing and just
Mhm.
like in a film, in a play, you have so many different areas that you can play around in, like the writing, hey Brent, the writing, the costume making, the songs, the choreographies, the
Hmm.
sets, you know.
Yeah. I think that's just like maybe that is just another like low dopamine thing where like it's just like I want to do a lot of things. It just like helps me not be bored or like, you know, it's like
Mm-hmm.
the attention gets to be on lots of things, you know? I don't need to focus on one. And maybe that's like that's part of why it appeals to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, your nervous system definitely informs your artwork, right? Like everyone has a body that they're creating their artwork through. You know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the body is definitely a part of everyone's art, even if they don't want to talk about it. The body informs the work in the
Mm-hmm.
process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. So that's I think like why it's interesting or fun for me. Mm-hmm.
How's Valentina doing today?
Mm. She is good. We went on a big walk, but she's her regular vocal self. She's got things to say, right? Right, Titi? She can come say hi. Yeah.
Hello, Jenny. Can you speak to the shared or parallel experience you had in relation to the other Hammock residency participants?
Mm. Like past residents?
I think just any residents. Like you can,
Oh, right. In terms of like even over the years of when I did my hammock
yeah,
residency.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that there's I mean, I think the one of the magical part of what hammock residency has been and was is that it like brings really curious people that kind of have practices that are material, but they also are like personal, you know? I think there's always like a little bit of like the practice often really shows who they are. I think in the
Mm,
Instagram residencies, I've really seen that with the past residencies or the last year's residencies. I could like really get a sense of like of who the residents were, which is sort of surprising. Um, like given that it is an Instagram residency, but if it,
yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
you do kind of get a sense because you have a bit of sharing of their work, but also of their like personal lives or things that they're kind of interested in. So I think that is something that a lot of hammock residents bring. That there is sort of like a uh, openness or like a often they show like a kind of a vulnerable part of themselves. So that's maybe something that I feel in parallel. Yeah.
And that's cool. What do you think about, you've been around for like since the beginning. So when it was, oh, hey, Ryan's here. Hey, Ryan. Nice to see you. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's other, yay. But there was, you were there when it was still at my house,
Mm.
and then now you've seen it because you've been on the board of Hammock and the collective, sorry, and you've seen it in the back end and seen all these new residents come through. One thing I've really liked seeing is how the spirit of Hammock is still there, even though it's not necessarily happening in my house. It's like happening in a digital format, but it still feels so personal
Mm-hmm.
and connected and caring and vulnerable and intuitive. Like I don't feel like we lost the best parts of Hammock, you know? I feel like they were able to transmute into just a different way of sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I think that I mean that's maybe partly um, you as the person that brings it together and some of the intention that you brought to it when you started it, it kind of lives on through the different iterations of the hammock residency. So that's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's still
Mm-hmm.
there. I was it really wasn't too sure if it was gonna pull off when I transferred over,
Mm-hmm.
but it has.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to see it in a different format still with a lot of the similar, like some of the themes that we would, like you were around when it started, you were around when you talked to me when I first started Hammock and like what I meant for it then, like sort of like the dream seeds of it, you
Mm-hmm.
know, when it was like a little baby. but it still has the same principles and operating. And I feel like all the residents, although they're very different in their practices, like they all end up sharing a certain part of themselves that are really special and like intimate. Like I don't think they would share the same stuff if they were in a different space.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that part of, well, the way that you've designed the program now, Heidi, in terms of like there is a lot of mentorship, so there is a lot of opportunities for artists to be supported and um, sort of, I think, to be, yeah, I think that that element of mentorship is maybe part of why in the digital residencies that the sort of same vibe is still there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Someone gave you a 100% when you said that. Is there something that you are bringing to Hammock that you kind of like your own personal intention for the Hammock and for the residency? Was there an intention that you wanted to work through or discover about yourself or?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, that I wanted to see like if there was any kind of like strong thread by having a look at
Mhm.
like, some of the things I created in the past to see how they linked together, um, or if they spoke to one another. But I don't know if I've really come to a conclusion with that. Maybe that's something for a mentorship session to like talk that out or like to
Yeah,
some objective opinions on it because,
yeah, I
um,
definitely see how connected they are. Like, they're all very playful and they all deal with possible utopian futures, a lot of them.
mhm,
Utopian and dystopian futures. Like they're all very surreal. Like they're larger than life. But then at the same time they're pretty humble. Like they're humble materials and you know, it's like they're very fantastical.
hmm, interesting.
That's something that's very like your imagination and your creative spirit and your playfulness. That's through all of your work. Even in the ideas that you've just kind of put into the Hammock Residency and be like, I haven't done anything with it, but this is my idea. Like, Horsey plays nice, or or
Hmm.
this is my mood board images, or these are images I think that I like the aesthetic of them. Like, there's still a sense of that playfulness and that visionary quality that you have.
Hmm. Yeah, maybe, yeah, cool.
But yeah, we can definitely talk about that later too, when we're not in public, being recorded in front of people.
Yeah, I look forward to that. I think that that's like an interesting part of this particular program that you've designed, that part to like, but I think that's what I wanted to sort of see going in. It was also just like an opportunity to like, I mean, I guess like, in part, like and this about me is like, I'm not like super comfortable sharing things publicly, or like, I'm not like a big social media user, or like, I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
mm, I don't post a lot. So some of that was just like there was you know, there's like a cool thing through this residency of like just challenging that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
something, you know,
Yeah.
what's that going to be? Yeah, don't overthink it or something, or just like, I mean, you can, or you know what I mean? Like it's that was sort of something for me that was good because it definitely like there's a discomfort there for me and I don't know why, but
Mm-hmm. It's so overt. Like you're sharing these images and you're like, I intend people to look at this, you know?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I expect
yeah,
people to look at this. That's my intent. I'm sharing this so that you do see this. And I mean, I do think that having the format like caption, image description, hashtags, image credit, like helps give sort of like a structure to the share so you don't just feel like just do anything. Like there's a structure at least there.
yeah.
Oh, oh, Valentina. Let's
um
talk about your dog, Jenny. Tell us a bit about your dog. For the people that don't know Valentina, please introduce.
she's the best. um she's a little bit noisy, but she's character, of course. But yeah, I think actually the hashtags I find really challenging.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to think of that many hashtags. feel like sometimes I'm just like making things up.
Yeah, you have to try if you go into later and you use the hashtag suggestions and you put in like just a word like theater, it'll just bring
Hmm.
up a bunch of hashtags and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
I
just
did that. I've done that for sure. But I still felt like it was like
oh it's weird.
challenging.
It's weird.
Hmm.
It's like
Hmm.
there's a whole rhetoric around hashtags and like how it works and how they function and it's weird to think of people like Googling your work or searching your work and so it's like what would people search if they were looking for an artist like me, you know?
Right. Interesting. Yeah.
You have to get into the mind of the user.
Yeah. That's what I think the residency, was interesting about the residency of having to challenge that, my discomfort around social media or around sharing and just like do it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah. What do you think your hesitancy around social media is?
I guess it's just like feels like such a mm, one I don't know. I just think like moments or ourselves or our experiences are so multifaceted and dynamic, and like I just feel like sometimes like reducing things to an image just feels like it tells such a small part of a story, and
Yeah.
doesn't uh, creates this place where then the context isn't there, and I feel like context is important, or
Yeah.
yeah, there's something. Whoops. There's something in that I think that it's sort of like, oh, I feel like this suggests Valentina, hey, suggests something that it isn't. I don't know,
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
just
yeah.
so I don't know if a moment or an experience or is like this, multi-sided die. It's just like one side of the die or one like
Yeah.
little
And
portion of
like
the big
what
picture.
side of yeah.
Yeah. And
Choosing
like,
what side of your die you're going to express and what part of the story you're going to share and do you want to share all the sides of the story like because you could make it so that you just chose one thing and then shared every little aspect of it over the 30 posts like you could just choose one thing and go really into detail into that one thing or you could just popcorn around and just do a little sampling, but like there really is like you have the attention of everybody on Instagram or whoever is following the hammock feed, you have all of their attention. And what are you going to do with their attention? Like you really get to decide
right.
what you want to do with it. And that can feel like a lot of responsibility.
It can, but then at the same time, it's like, thinking about how social media is consumed is that it's like also like consumed quite idly, it's just like, you know, we wash, oh, we move through it really quickly. We
Mm-hmm.
don't give, I mean, it's impossible to give a lot of attention to it because we know there's so much more to come. There's so much more content that's going to come into our feed. So I don't know. I think that that's just like this interesting thing where you know that you're putting something out into the public via a medium like Instagram, but then you're also like people may just like blurrily scroll by it. So
Yeah, it's vulnerable because you have to be okay with the fact that it might just be scrolled by after you've taken all this time to like craft something to be out there. I think Francisco just started watching, and I one thing that I really liked about his work is that he took like a story, and it was a serialized story, but then just shared a little bit of it every day, and like took a
that's
huge
very
image and
so
just
smart.
shared a little bit of it every day. And so at the end of the residency, you get this whole image, and you get the whole story. But it's not. It was a really intense story about some really like like hard issues like race and 9/11 and being racially profiled, things like this. And because it only a little bit was shared every day, it made it so that people could get through the story,
Yeah, that's really cool.
you
I like
know?
that. Hmm.
So it's like
Really cool
you
way
can
to
kind
approach
of, yeah, you can use the, you can use mechanism of Instagram kind of to undo itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't have to just keep it light because that's what the algorithm is designed to do. Like you can kind of like you do have this space where you can make something more than just what it's doing already.
That's very cool. Yeah.
But then how do you want to do that, right? And then do you want to do that? And
Mm-hmm.
that's always
Yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
question.
Yeah, there's so many ways.
Yeah, you can do anything you want with your 30 posts. You know, do you want to make one big statement or do you want to make a bunch of little statements or do you want to just investigate? Like I've been liking to see your residency because it feels very much like I'm in your studio,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Like I'm not like seeing the finished work. I'm just seeing things that you're playing around with, things that you're thinking about, things that are inspiring you.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't seen anyone do that yet in the Hammock Residency.
Yeah, I mean, that's been really useful for me, or that's what I feel like where I'm at right now. It was sort of like I feel like in a lot of ways like um post post sort of like many years of being really focused on community engaged work and then sort of like doing expressive arts therapy school. It's sort of like I feel like I'm almost like getting to know my practice again,
Yeah.
or like I'm like rediscovering like how I want to play or how I want to work, and what that process is for me because it's changed so much. Or yeah, yeah, it has changed a lot. I just think if I think like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, it's just sort of like really like doing community projects consistently, like
Hmm.
all the time through
Yeah.
can and through other things too. So it sort of feels that I'm to not have that focus now. It allows me to get to know that part of me, or like what my process is, or like how do I practice, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you have any questions that you feel like you're taking away from your hammock residency? Like it's almost finished. You've got like 2 more days.
Mm-hmm.
You've got one more post and then an outro post and then you're all done. Like what do you feel like you're taking away anything from the residency?
I mean, any experiences like these where you have to like commit like to connecting with something consistently, I think can be really invigorating. Or for me, it's really invigorating. It's almost habit forming. It's sort of like, okay, now this is like a habit to like be spending some time like writing or rooting through some of my old material and like maybe working on something new and doing like bits, like it's like it is that creating a bit of a habit, which I think has been like cool and important for me. I
Mm-hmm.
hope. I hope.
Yeah, totally. You just got a heart there, Jenny.
Yeah, but
What how do you see yourself taking that and taking that sort of experience or reminder to kind of make a daily practice and just moving forward with it? How do you see Hammock kind of informing your work outside of the residency?
well, I guess because there is sort of, if I want, and I don't know if the people listening know this about Hammock, but like, there is of course the like the Instagram portion, or this year there is the Instagram portion, and then there is the publication portion, and there is the exhibition portion. So there is some stuff in the future that I can still like work on through this residency, because that will still be on my mind in terms of like
Yeah.
how do I
Yeah.
want to take some of this and share it in the publication, or like what would come out of it that could be used for the exhibition, or like what do I want to show at the exhibition, and what will that look like, you
Yeah,
know?
I'm curious. What do you want to do you have any ideas for your publication?
Yeah, I mean, I've started this tufting hobby. Um, or like, that was cool because like I had bought this stuff to do this to play with this tufting, like making these rugs with this tufting gun. Um, like so long ago. I bought it like I invested in all the equipment, which, wasn't a huge investment, but it was a little bit. Um, ages ago, and then I just like never touched it. And you would do that thing where you're like, oh, like you wanted to try that thing, and like then you got all the stuff, and like you didn't even try it. What's wrong with you?
Hmm.
So I think like the residency gave me, was like, oh well, it's playtime now, so get that thing out and like try it. So I think that
Hmm.
that will maybe become something that could be connected to the exhibition. Um, yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but I feel like that could be part of it. Hi, kids.
Jenny.
Um, yeah, that's, I think, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm curious as to what kind of thoughts are you thinking for the exhibition?
Well, I think a few tufted pieces could be really cool. Like just get because I'm like, but I also like texturally they're pretty interesting. So I don't know. I was like wanting to sort of like continue to make those tufted pieces, but I was also like digging up a lot of the like no problem kit. I'm just doing a little talk about a little residency I'm doing with Hammock Residency and talking about it. So it's nice to see you here. Um, yeah, so something I think with the tufting, but I was thinking about like looking at some of the video pieces, and I was wondering actually even how like if they were projected on or in or became things that like could work with those. That could be kind of interesting texturally. Yeah. Yeah, especially like I don't know, water's come up a lot in my residency, and I mean, water is a big part of my life, or um, being in the water, movement with water. So I don't know. Um, whereas the car
Yeah,
so like on the ground, you know.
yeah.
So I don't know. There's some like kind of interesting uh, something that could maybe play or connect there. Who knows?
I think it's cool just like knowing that you've put this like studio practice up for the last 30 days and then going to the exhibition and the publication and knowing that we're going to see a continuation of some of the ideas that you've put forward. Like that excites me. Like going to the exhibition and seeing like, oh, Jenny was working on that idea and like here it is in the exhibition. Or like, oh, that's so interesting. Jenny was working on that drawing and now it's in the publication. Like that's really something to look forward to, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And there are so many things that I think like doing the residency and like, pulling through a bunch of other things I've done over the last while. There's some things that like weren't really easy to share on Instagram. Like, I did quite a few playwriting workshops. I don't know, a few years ago now, and I have like a lot of exercises that I did through there that are pretty interesting, and I was like really excited to like look at again, but they were like a little bit difficult to share in this medium.
Mhm.
There might have been a way, but I just couldn't quite think about it. So there's other I think things that have come up that I'm like, oh, that, you know,
Mhm.
right, that like that's interesting. Like pick that idea up again, or like, you know,
Mhm. Yeah, because the medium is always such a big part of it too, you know?
yeah,
And you're really pushing yourself with this medium, but like I think you're more familiar with exhibitions and publications too. That might be more of a comfort zone for you.
yeah, maybe, yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, Jenny, it's 4:10, so we've been chatting for an hour. Just wanted to say thank you. Is there anything you wanted to bring up or share before we say goodbye?
No, no, no. No. It's like, uh, it's been fun.
It's
I
been
can't,
fun. It's
it's
been
been
fun.
fun. I can't believe there's only like a day left. Yeah, and I'm
I know.
excited.
It just zoomed by, right? It just zoomed
Yeah,
by.
yeah, and I'm excited to see what other residents do this year. And I mean, I have the pleasure and the insight of also working with you on the board. So it is fun because I know what's to come, and I'm excited about all the
Yeah, you have the inside
all the
scoop
things
on
that
what's
you've
happening in the
programmed.
program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know the program.
yeah. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, I like programming. It's always so much fun being like, oh, this is going to happen in a month and this is going to happen in 2 months. And
Yeah.
so it makes it exciting. I'm like, I wonder what this person's going to do with their residency. I wonder what this person's going to do with their residency.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's cool.
Yay. Well, Jenny, thank you for your time and thank you for sharing all your thoughts on process and studio and your evolution as an artist. It's been really nice just being with you and hearing what you have to say.
Thank you, Heidi.
Yeah. And if anyone's interested, Jenny can be found on Instagram at Jenny Lee Craig. So that's Jenny normally. She's going to be on Instagram here with Hammock for the next day and a half, and then you come to the exhibition. That's going to be first week of November, and you'll be able to pick up the publications there as well as see Jenny's new work. And it's at the James Black Gallery, and we're so lucky to work with them again this year. James Black is amazing. Love working with them.
Agreed.
And lots of love to all of our collective members, and because everyone does such different work, and we want to like it's really a collaborative work, you know.
Yeah, it really is.
Mm-hmm. Yay, Jenny! Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. Bye.
Take care. Bye, everyone.